My name's Chantelle Leidl, and work-wise, I come from an environmental engineering background and currently work as a kind of regional water planner and policy type person at Alberta Environment and Sustainable Resource Development. Outside of work, I would say I'm, among other things, a novice gardener and an aspiring permaculturalist. Well, generally, I mean, I'm a strong believer in all things local, food being quite principal amongst that. So there's nothing more local than your own backyard. So we try to, do as much as we can in our own backyard, participate in a urban CSA, the fruit truck, the farmer's market, you pick farms, do as much as we can. And then try to preserve what we can for the winter. And in general, kind of, I would say, the local food thing, gardening, permaculture, for me, they all kind of, on a real general level, tie together a whole diverse set of values and interests that I have and kind of bring them all into one package. So primarily, that would be environmental values, but also community values, spiritual beliefs, and then just a general love of food and eating and cooking. So it kind of wraps that all up. More specifically, I mean, I would say there's, one particular experience that definitely serves as a motivator for me. I worked for a few years in Peru, and so there in the kind of the backwaters of the mountains there, the women there have this phenomenal tradition of weaving, and they go from shearing the sheep to spinning the wool, dyeing the wool, and weaving these beautiful products and blankets and stuff. And it's just this enormous set of knowledge that they have and expertise, and that's the grandmothers and the mothers. But the daughters, of course, you ask them about it, and they're in the internet cafe and they're taking a business course and learning IT and really have nothing to do with that tradition. And it just struck me that there's just such an enormous body of knowledge that's just being lost in one fell swoop in a single generation. And then coming home several years later and setting up my own little domestic routine, went to plant my garden and realized, I have no idea. Are you supposed to step on the onions? Are you not supposed to step on the onions? There's tomato plants that you prune and ones you don't, and it I realized that that same loss of knowledge is happening here. So my grandparents, they had a garden patch and a few animals, and as a matter of survival, raised 10 kids on that. My mother had a pretty big patch growing up, and then gradually got smaller and smaller and smaller as we got older, and she realized that you can actually buy baby potatoes all year round in the grocery store. So, and then my own generation, it's increasingly rare to see anyone that actually does any sort of gardening on any meaningful scale. So that same process of losing that knowledge body is happening here. But I think it's a bit more critical here because, knowledge about food production is, to me, I think quite fundamental to the overall long-term resilience of a community, of a country, of a society. And not only are we losing that knowledge, but really it's increasingly becoming, really, really centralized, really technical, and really corporatized. And I think that's kind of really a threat to our resilience as a community. So the best way to try and regain that knowledge is really just to put my hands in soil and plant.